What it do, golf fans? Welcome back to the Turn Dogs Golf Podcast. This is Liam. Alongside me is an exhausted Jack on the East Coast, but he's here. He made it. I gave him enough grief after the last couple of weeks. He decided to hop on. He is burning the midnight oil, basically, in his mind. I'm sure it was a long day, but he snuck in, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, might as well make it a 20-hour work day.
Yeah, what can go wrong with that? Just to highlight. It was a solid week in golf. I mean, no complaints. We had we had some big names at the top of the leaderboard. It got overshadowed by football, of course, because it always does at this time of year. But all things considered, like the leaderboard was not too disgusting. Keith Mitchell was T3. Beau Hossler was in the playoff. You had Mackenzie Hughes, who I want to say finished T5.
Seamus Power.
Yeah, Seamus Power finished T11. I think Glover was up there as well. It's not the prettiest leaderboard of all time, but at least the names on the top of the leaderboard were the names that were the most popular names in the field. I'm trying to think positives. Do you have anything positive to say about this past week, Jack, or was it just kind of a blech week?
I was traveling most of it and in presentation, so I didn't get to see as much. Shout out fair. Kevin Yu, I guess.
Yeah, Kevin Yu with one of the best putting performances of his career to get the win. You'll get a theme out of basically anybody that was in the top 5 that likely it was one of their better putting performances of their career, which I think is kind of hilarious the way that all happened to fall apart, but it works out. Jack, you can sit back and take a quick 3-minute siesta now while I go through all my my lineups and stuff like that. Just some highlights. Again, winner last week, Kevin Yu in the playoff over Beau Hossler. Some notable guys that missed the cut: J.J. Spawn, Harris English, Joel Damon, Matt Kuchar, Adam Svensson, Maverick McNeely, and Patrick Rogers. You might tell me those aren't popular names. I might tell you to go pound sand because the entire event didn't have popular names, so those are just the most popular. Some of the best low-priced options that I was all over, because, again, Jack wasn't here last week. Ben Coles was T16, Justin Lauer, who was T28, Mac Meisner, who was T37, which, again, you might be like, that's not that good. Top 40, all right? He was a low price, and he finished top 40. That's pretty good. And then Chan Kim, who finished T33. So those were some of my good ones. Some of my misses included J.J. Spawn, who withdrew due to his back. I don't know if it was actually his back. It might have just been because he shot +4 on Thursday. But regardless, he withdrew. And then I had Keith Mitchell struggling because of his high price point, and I think the nerves getting to him. And he just went out and finished T3. Live and learn. Fortunately, all I had on that was a wild card pick, so I'm not too out of luck on that as far as Keith Mitchell goes. I will just segue this right into my wild card pick. I had Keith Mitchell to miss the cut at +275. That was clearly a loss because he finished tied third. So live and learn. But yeah, this was a crazy event from Keith Mitchell. He played really well, all things considered, and I don't see it continuing as far as that level of craziness based on what his stats did. For my DraftKings lineup, I had J.J. Spawn at 9,900, who withdrew. Patrick Fishburne, T48. Eric Cole, T16. Ryan Fox, T11. Ben Coles, T16. Cole and Coles. That's confusing, Liam. Ben Coles, T16, and then S.H. Kim, who missed cut. For my FanDuel, I had Seamus Power, T11, Eric Cole, T16, J.J. Spawn withdrew, Patrick Fishburne, T48, Mac Meisner, T37, and the rookie, Matt McCarthy, who's T63, who, again, was the stone min price on FanDuel. Hopefully he got him in. It was not an impressive weekend by him by any means. But he did quite well considering he made the cut in his first PGA Tour event of his career, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. So that was really nice to see.
By the way.
What?
It's McCarty, not McCarthy.
Oh, I mixed Denny's name with his. That's right.
Somebody was probably just wildly confused. They're like, who?
Come on. We know I'm not good with names. And now we got McCarty and McCarthy. That's going to mess me up 100 times out of 100. So yeah, all things considered, I think I won money on FanDuel. I think I just missed out on money on DraftKings just again because the JJ Spawn withdrawal did not help me. As far as my bets go, I went 3 for 4 last week, so I had a pretty good week betting. First one was Matai Schmidt over Steven Yeager at +120. Steven Yeager double bogeyed the 18th hole to finish one shot worse than Matai Schmidt. So I won. So I won that bet on the 18th hole on a Sunday. Then we have Ryan Fox over Aaron Baddeley and Tom Wilkinson at -130. Aaron Baddeley, I think, finished 5th from last, and Tom Wilkinson finished probably 15th from last. So that was nice at a win. I had Nick Dunlap over Steven Yeager, who ended up losing to Steven Yeager by a shot because of the double bogey on 18. So that was a loss. And then I had Eric Cole over Ben Griffin, who beat him by about 3-4 shots. Nothing too fancy, so that was a win. That was +100. Overall, on the week, I finished it up 1.97 units on the week. So I'm currently up 2.97 units on the year. We've played 3 weeks. I'm up about 3 units. Let's just keep it on pace. I'll be up like 40 units at the end of the year. It's a good problem to have. All in theory. Last thing, and then we'll move on to this week. My winners picks, I had Eric Cole, who I theoretically could have saved for the future, but T16. And then Ryan Fox, who finished T11. I'm thrilled on having Fox at T11 because he's about as inconsistent as it gets.
I'm shocked you burned both those guys right away.
I think Foxy's too inconsistent to rely on him in an important week. So I was less worried about. Cole, I wasn't thrilled about having to let, but it just felt like a really good opportunity for him. And he finished T16. So I'm not like horribly pissed that I used him.
Got it.
So it worked out. All right. With that, we are on to the brand new event, the Black Desert Classic. This is I can't say this word properly, inaugural event of the Black Desert Classic. It's the first time it's being played, and it's played actually up in elevation in Utah. It's going to be played at about 3,000 feet. Bear in mind, next week, the Shriners is the one that's always played in Vegas. That's played at about 2,000 feet, so it's going to be a little bit higher than this. Just use your judgment. Come on, you guys are smart people. We get it. The last time PGA Tour event was played in Utah was over 60 years ago, which is
64 to be exact.
There you go. And this course, for all intents and purposes, is a prime example of like a desert style type of course. It's not necessarily desert exactly like the Arizona type of desert where you're heading into like the sand. But if you miss the fairway, you're actually going to be in like a lava rock type of layout.
It's awesome.
It will look very cool aesthetically. If you want to watch football on Sundays, I understand. Just tune in for 5 minutes because evidently it's an extremely picture.
Thursday through Saturday. Most importantly, or Thursday, Friday.
We're just assuming you're putting it on Thursday, Friday. If you throw it on, side by side with college football on Saturday or side by side with college football on Sunday, that works too. But just take a look at the course because it's very picturesque. The lava rock makes it look extremely cool to see on TV, according to sources. There are some fun layouts to this course. There's 2 drivable par 4s, the 5th hole and the 14th hole, which, again, Jack just pumped his fist because drivable par 4s are super fun when it comes to, I would personally say, a viewing experience as well as a playing experience. I think you could probably agree on that one, right, Jack? Yeah?
As long as I don't get another death threat, yes. That sounds very great.
So this course boasts wide fairways, and there are just 2 water hazards in play. They're both going to be on, I think, the 6th hole. And just a quick note, there are some spots on this course where there are 90-yard wide landing zones. So keep that in mind when you're looking at players. Driving accuracy is probably a little less vital in terms of like people that just barely miss the fairways. But you will still need obviously a little so you don't end up in lava rocks. And then accuracy obviously is going to be a little less important because of the fact that the fairways are so wide. One other note, this is a resort style course. So the putters are going to be really random. They're going to run the greens on probably like a 12 centimeter. I mean, that's pretty standard for a resort course, right, Jack, in your opinion? Like running them on like a 12-ish?
I wouldn't even say that. Well, it depends. For PGA Tour event, probably around 11 and a half, I would say. But if you're looking at like the average Tuesday for the average person, no.
Well, the point being is that the putting is going to be extremely sporadic. I wouldn't rely too much on a great putter versus a bad putter. I think you want to look at obviously overall tee to green play, and then anybody with a little bit of driving distance is always helpful, and approach is always going to be fun as well. So those are the three I would look at when it comes to that area. All right, Jack, you good? You staying awake for me over there?
I'm hitting such a wall right now. I physically cannot describe it, but I'm here.
There you go. You're here. I'm gonna keep leading it, and Jack, you just smile and look pretty. All right, that's what we're doing here, anyways.
Wonderful.
All right, on to the DraftKings pricing we go. We have Keith Mitchell, 10,600, Seamus Power, 10,300, Kurt Kitayama, 10,200, and Beau Hossler at 10,000. I know you're tired. Do you have any thoughts?
Yes. I actually do like two guys here, Seamus Power and Kurt Kitayama. They were two of the guys that I know you have a different opinion on Kurt Kitayama, which I'll let you get to.
Yep.
But in terms of what I was able to look at, and I could see my video buffering. I'm on hotel Wi-Fi, so don't even get me started. Seamus Power for me, outside of his hole-in-one at 16, which made me want to punch him in the face.
Jesus.
Well, more so the ESPN producers.
They're
so annoying.
Is that one worse than Sam Ryder's?
Oh, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, you're
Screw
thinking
you, Sam Ryder. Anyway, outside of the U.S. Open, he finished top 40 in everything but one event, which was in Scotland. So he's been really consistently playing. I think he's one of those guys that really got overlooked. He had only one top 10, but the stats aren't going to show that he had a 12, 11, 11, 13, 17, and another 11. So he's been really consistently up there in terms of the metrics. And taking a look at him at the Sanderson, where he finished 11th, obviously full rounds in the 60s, but 66, 67, 68, and 69 I thought was actually incredible. And then Kurt Kitayama, I thought missing the cut last week was disgusting. Excuse me. But in terms of a guy that, and I know you'll touch on it and have touched on it, the width of this course, this guy is actually a really good driver of the golf ball. And if his irons are supposed to do what they're supposed to do, which they didn't last week, then the short game really is negated in terms of making or missing a cut per se. But for 10,200, he needs to perform a lot better. And I think this is a good course that he should be able to do that.
Yeah. You and I have very different thoughts on Kitayama. Again, I personally think he's the ugly duckling in this 10K range. His name being priced as high seems a bit like a mistake in my personal opinion. I think there's just much less win equity from him than anybody else in the rest of this group. He didn't make the FedEx playoffs last year, and he missed the cut at the Wyndham to end the season. He was also priced in like the mid sevens when it came to the Wyndham. I have this general rule when it comes to the swing seasons into the starting season. If we haven't seen somebody play golf in like 2-ish months, I don't really want to bet on them or put them in a DFS lineup when it's like their first or second week back. And Kurt Kitayama is a prime example of that, where he missed cut at the Wyndham, didn't make the playoffs, and then just like showed up here and was like, yeah, I'm going to be great. It's going to be fine. I don't want to run him out. Do I think he can make the cut? Sure. But I just don't think he has as much equity as Seamus Power. I will dig right into that. I talked about him a good amount last week. He's really figured out how to avoid missing cuts. Jack kind of talked about it. He hasn't missed a cut since the U.S. Open and Pinehurst, right? Or no, he missed a cut at the Scottish Open. That's right. But his tee to green numbers have been absolutely great. His putter's been solid, and again, this guy rattles off top 20s like their days of the week. So I'm very happy to go to him. You have Keith Mitchell, who had one of his best putting performances. He had one of the best putting performances of his career last week at the Sanderson. He gained over 6 strokes putting. He hadn't done that in over 8 years, which is a crazy amount to think about in terms of how bad his putter has been then. I really don't see him replicating that again this week, and it's a good, but it is nice to kind of like see that as a positive. Wow. He has a high floor and a low ceiling, and his great ball striking is likely going to carry him this week, so I'll make another cut. But I think he's going to get putter regression as far as not gaining 6 strokes. So he's probably going to finish somewhere in the realm of like T25. Keep that in mind. Beau Hossler, in my opinion, it's like baby Keith Mitchell. Basically everything I mentioned above. He gained 6 strokes putting last week as well, which I think is also unsustainable long term. I like him this week because he's got good tee to greens. But again, all things considered, he's going to be in about the same boat as Keith with slightly less upside, hence the price point slightly lower. Cool. Do you have a top 3 in this range, by the way?
I can make one. I like Kitayama, then I would go Power, and then I think I would go Mitchell. Beau Hossler is like the most if you followed him for as long, he can win, and then the next week, we say that about like Sam Burns and whatnot, but he could easily go like 120, 20, 20, 30, 400. Like he can drop so quickly. Um, I think this course differs from a lot of the times where he really dominates when we take a look at a course like in Texas. So I just think Keith Mitchell's safer.
That's fair. I would not go that same route. I think I'd go Seamus 1, Keith 2, probably Hostler 3. Again, I'm just not high on Kitayama because I haven't seen him golf in forever. So happens. All right, 9K range we go. Eric Van Reen 9,900 all the way down to Lucas Glover at 9,000.
Yeah, so first and foremost, Lucas Glover, I think, is being widely disrespected in terms of his pricing. I know putting carries a lot into it, and this course is obviously going to negate a little bit of the putting. But his last 2 weeks, outside of probably the worst stretch of golf he's ever played and what I've ever seen from him, has 13th and 3rd. And he finished it with obviously 6 of his last 8 rounds in the 60s, including a 65, which is amazing to see. He really turned on the scoring. I think with the elevation, it's not really a long course, especially with the elevation. That's not really going to hurt him. So I really like him.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm pretty high on Glover myself. I have some highlights on a few guys. Patrick Fishburne, which I know, Jack, you've liked for a while. Statistically, he's been probably the hottest golfer on the PGA Tour in the last 36 rounds. Now, again, that is just the last 36 rounds. It's not including like the last 36 average rounds. So you get like 36 of everybody. Like it's kind of a skewed stat, but it still works. Technically, also, it's Matt McCarty, if you include the Korn Ferry Tour, because Matt McCarty won 3 events in the last 36 rounds. It's a bit of a gray area, but Fishburne's been one of the best on the PGA Tour.
After starting horrifically. If you look at 10 for 21 and skip that over if you're a casual, take a second look.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. He had great rounds on Thursday and Friday last week, but basically just cooled off on the weekend and made too many pars. Wasn't even like he was making bogeys. He just finished like 3 under, making 4 birdies and a bogey in a round, and just wasn't able to keep note. Also note, this will basically be a home tournament for him. He lives in Utah. He golfs in Utah. He's got a home in Utah. I don't know. Maybe he's got a wife and or kids in Utah. I don't know if he does. No judgment.
How's that judgment?
No. I don't know how old he is. I don't look that deeply into him. But again, I think Fishburne will be good this week. I'm also going to talk about Ryan Fox again. He had a few good and a few bad rounds last week. He gained at least 3 strokes in all statistical categories outside of around the green play, where he lost 3 strokes. He's also gained with the putter for the first time in 6 starts with that performance. So I think that's a really good positive to see. And then again, with a resort course and slower greens, I think he is in play and is an option this week if you want to get to him. I will talk about the guy you mentioned, Lucas Glover. I feel like we've more or less kind of avoided him since he went with back-to-back wins a little over a year ago. Prior to him doing that, he went on a streak with a putter, gaining at least 3 strokes in 3 straight starts. Want to take a wild guess on what he's done in his last 2 starts?
Glover?
Yeah, he's gained 3 strokes.
Yeah,
he's gained 3 strokes with the putter. So there's a high likelihood that it could be dangerous this week because he probably will gain 3 strokes with the putter again. Jaeger, much like the rest of the bad putters on tour, he found the flat stick last week, gained over 5 strokes putting. Didn't stop him doubling the 18th. Suck it. And I don't see that putter staying that hot going forward. So I think there's better options in this range than Steven Jaeger, but I also understand if you really want the distance, you can get to him.
Cool. Fair enough. I think also to watch out for Ben Griffin. I think that he fits the mold of this course. I'm not committed to it in terms of an official play, but I do think it's a sneaky one.
Yeah,
also, this is the worst hotel chair I've ever sat in. If I like put my hand off it, I literally slide forward. It's awful.
Oh, gotta love that hotel life. What can we say? Oh man, fun times. Ben Griffin is really reliant on. I want to say is he reliant on the putter and sucks at the approach play, or is he good on the approach play and sucks with the putter?
He's a really good short game.
Okay, that's all right. That's what it is then. That makes sense. All right, into the 8K range we go. We're starting with Chan Kim at 8,900 down to Matt McCarty at 8,000.
Let me tell you, this is going to be one of those moments where if I say, if you don't have a guy in your lineup, you're an idiot. Here he is, Emiliano Grillo.
Oh.
Get him in your lineup. 21 for 24 of his last cuts, 11th at Sanderson, and played all the way through FedEx, was in the Olympics, was finishing top 40 in all these major events, and now he's playing against, no offense, like Paul Fishburne. Like, that's his level. Like, Paul Fishburne's a dog. I'm not trying to say that disrespectfully.
Patrick Fishburne, yeah.
But there's no Scotty.
Yep.
I don't think there's anyone in the top 40 of the OWGR in this event.
Yeah.
Maybe lower. I don't think Kashmir Keith is top 40.
He's probably the closest. Could be Power, depending on no. You're right. I don't think anybody is. But no, Grillo's a solid option. Again, he's at a certain point, you just got to look and you're like, who's good on the PGA Tour that's in this field that plays a lot in the PGA Tour? They'll probably be good again this week. And so he's definitely a name to keep in mind. I'm going to mention Harry Hall. He actually could be a really good play this week, considering how good he is with the short game. He's gained in strokes gained putting in 10 straight starts. He's also gained tee to green in seven of those last 9 starts. And he has 6 top 30 finishes in that stretch. He's also based in Vegas, so like it's kind of close to being a home game for him. So I don't hate going to that for Harry Hall. Again, we're kind of like grasping at straws with this event because we don't have any statistical data or history here. So it's things like that we're really relying on.
What was the eye test?
Yeah, it's an eye testing. And I think Harry Hall will pass the eye test. Do I think he'll win? Probably not. Do I think he'll finish top 30? Yeah, that's a good number for him. I will also mention Andrew Novak at 8,100. The advanced metrics really love Andrew Novak. He's gained tee to green in 3 straight starts, has not missed a cut since the Charles Schwab last May, which is kind of a crazy streak. He's an average putter when it comes to it at the end of the day, but the rest of his game really should carry him as far as that goes. And I think he's got a good opportunity again for like top 20, top 30. So
I like that. I also think that Patrick Rogers is a sneaky play. Yeah, he sucked last week, which was weird to see, but he's one of those really consistent golfers. Like, he's not going to miss out on a ton of cuts and opportunities, especially in a field like this.
Yeah. I think if you want to go for high risk, high reward play, I think Thor Bjornsson is not an awful option.
Yeah.
But I think there's more options as far as safety than him lower in this range. Is probably the best way to describe it.
Fair enough.
Cool. Into the 7K range we go. We got Matthijs Schmidt, who helped me win my bet last week, down to, wow, there's a lot. Is that Joel Highsmith? No, Joe Highsmith. That's right. Yeah.
I'm going to talk about 2 guys. One, okay. Gim Reaper, Doug Gim.
Nice.
He's so weirdly consistent and keeps finding like top 50 in every single event. And I always say, if you're like around 7,500, if you make the cut, I'm happy. With no data and how random this event is, I'm pushing that up to like 8K. So he's probably going to make the cut. And I also think he has such good ball striking numbers, especially in this range, that I think he's actually a guy that I could target. And then secondarily, Chandler Phillips. He's been a monster lately, and I think it's very overdrawn. One of my favorite things about him, go listen to his interview about his driver. He says he has no customizations. He went to a Dick's Sporting Goods, picked it up off the rack, and said it was good enough for him. True story. So,
that is spectacular, by the way. Holy shit. That's great.
True story. So he's one of the guys, and he's been so above what the expectations were for him, especially in the last couple events. He's a big target of mine, especially at his price.
That's fair. One guy I'll mention is Justin Lauer, who, again, will probably not be a fancy play, but the guy's likely going to make the cut. I mean, he made the cut at the U.S. Open last year, and he hasn't missed a cut since May. So I think he's a very viable option at 7,800. Again, not very fancy, but he did finish T7 at the Procore, T28 at the Sanderson. Again, it's Jack Rout of wanting got to make a cut and play solid this week. I think Lauer at 7,800 is a very solid option if you want to go there. I will also talk about who else did I have here? Oh, Daniel Berger. That's right. He actually played really well last week, which is kind of scary because now you have to consider potentially putting him in your lineup. He gained in all strokes gained metrics last week at the Sanderson. Last time he did that was like pre-Ryder Cup, which was also pre-injury. It's terrifying to think about. I don't recommend it, but if you're trying to be early and like beat the curve, this would be the type of event that like Daniel Berger could do well on. I do not want to be responsible if he does not do well. Again, it's a high risk, high reward play. If you don't want to go up for Thor Bjornsson and you still want to do a high risk, high reward, I think that Daniel Berger at 800, 7,700 is probably the next best option. 7,700. So, other guy I will mention, I want to say he's in this range, right? Where's Patton Kizzire? I can't find him, but he's in this range, I promise. The winner 2 weeks ago at the Procore, he boomed with 8.5 strokes with the putter, but also backed it up this past week, the Sanderson, with 2.5 strokes with the putter and the T11 finish. So I don't hate it if you think there's an opportunity to go back to him and get more out of him. I think it's probably going to hang out again around that top 20 range, but viable option, and especially like 75, 7,600, not awful. Max McGreevy, we haven't really talked about it, but the top 30 in the Korn Ferry Tour rankings got their PGA Tour cards last week from the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, so congratulations to them. Max McGreevy is one of them. He actually finished T7 last week, the Korn Ferry Tour Championship, and he had 2 wins, one in July and one in August. He was clearly really good on the Korn Ferry Tour. He actually played on the PGA Tour in 2023 and 2022. The goal is that he can carry it over. Honestly, I like him in this low to mid 7K range just because he's played a lot of golf, which is more than most of the guys in this range can say. Bud Cawley's a solid option. He's started to figure it out with putter the last couple weeks, so he's gained 2 in a row. There's just not a lot of sample size behind it outside of those last 2 weeks. But I think in terms of options at 7,400, there's a lot worse that you can do. And I think that is it for my 7K. Anybody else stand out for you?
Sami Välimäki. He is a bomber from Greece. Or not Greece, Finland, sorry.
Finland, yeah.
Finland. He is a monster, and I think that he is going to tear apart this course at 7,100.
He's been playing a lot of golf, so he's a good option too. So that's fair. All right, into the 6K range we go. I mean, you don't. Just be honest. Do you have nobody? Because like I had
Screw you, Nate Lashley.
That's fair, honestly. No, Nate Lashley's not Jack's biggest fan because Jack.
Screw you, you dick. I hate him with a passion. He came at me for no reason.
Yeah, Nate Lashley said some things about Jack in the past because Jack's a pretty good golfer. That's that. We'll just leave it at there. We'll leave it at that.
I caught a stray.
Yeah, you did.
Grayson Sigg, he is a guy that with his driving and with his irons has the ability to get there. Obviously short game is what kills him, but
it's scary. He's like 1 for 8 on made cuts.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't suggest going down here if you can avoid it, but he is a guy. And then Alejandro Tosti randomly will pop off in some of these random events where they have driver accuracy, or not accuracy, but driver distance.
Yep.
I wouldn't suggest it, but
yeah, I mean that's kind of what you're working on. You're like maybe so and so potentially. Like that's what we're dealing with this range. It's like play with the guy who never plays on the PGA Tour, or the guy who's missed 8 straight cuts, or the guy who's never done this, and so it's ugly. I have 2 names. First one, Lanto Griffin. He has probably the longest made cut streak of anybody in this 6K range. It's not an impressive number. It's only 4 starts in a row. But the tee to green numbers are good, and the putting numbers are respectable enough that you're stuck in this range. Hopefully, you're at least stuck at 6,900, and you can play Lanto. There are a lot of worse options than him, in my opinion, down here. All right, Sungyeon Low is 6,500. Similarly to McGreevy, he received his card last week on the Korn Ferry Tour Championship. He does have 2 top 25 finishes on the PGA Tour this past summer. It's not much, but in all honesty, again, he's been playing a lot of golf, and a lot of players in this range really haven't been playing a lot of PGA Tour golf. So I think that considering he's been in good form, been in top 15, top 20s on Korn Ferry Tour events, he's a very solid option in this price point for 6,500 comparatively to the rest of the group. Cool. With that, Jack, we jumping into the lineups.
Thank God.
Right,
Seamus Power, 10,300. Andrew Novak, Emiliano Grillo, 8,700. Andrew Novak 8,100, Doug Gim 7,900, Chandler Phillips 7,600, and then Nick Hardy 7,300.
There you go. For mine, I'm doing Seamus Power 10,300, Patrick Fishburne 9,600, Andrew Novak 8,100, Justin Lauer 7,800, Ben Coles 7,300, and then Sung Yul No 6,500.
Cool. And then my FanDuel, Kurt Kitayama 11,600, Lucas Glover 10K, Andrew Novak 9,900, Griot 9,900, Gim Reaper 9,500, and Chandler Phillips 9,100. Very balanced.
Yeah, you went balanced. I did not. My FanDuel lineup is similar with a few differences. Seamus Power 11,400, Patrick Fishburne 10,900, Michael Thor Bjornsson 10,600, Ryan Fox 10,100, Ben Coles at 8,700, and then Sung Yul No at 8,300.
There we go.
On to bets.
Yes, I have, well, what should have been 5, but I didn't complete the odds. So if you want to go ahead, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the odds, that's fine too. We can
just with one.
Okay. For my bets, I have 5 as well. My first one is going to be Harry Hall as the top Englishman over David Skins, Callum Tarrant, and Ben Taylor at plus 125. My second one is Keith Mitchell over Kurt Kitayama at minus 130. I have Andrew Novak top 30 at plus 115. I have Ryan Fox top 30 at plus 100. And then I have kind of a high one here. Patrick Fishburne top 20 round 1 is plus 170. So that will also end up being my 5th and final bet.
I have Kurt Kitayama top 40 is minus 190 lock. I have Emiliano Griot top 40 minus 143. Seamus Power top 40 minus 190. Andrew Novak top 40 minus 143. And then Lucas Glover top 40 at minus 160.
Yeah, if you don't like having Andrew Novak in where I have him at top 30 at plus 115, bump him back to 140, get it for, what was it, minus 143 or something like that, right,
yeah.
Jack?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think we both like Novak this week. It's just a question of how much you want to throw at him in that sense. We going wild card pets or wild cards or winners?
I love wild card pets.
I meant to say wild card bets, but
yeah.
just words.
Sami Balamaki top 30 plus 200. Wow. That guy I think is going to surpass expectations. And the reason it's a wild card is because that guy could easily find the shanks and look like he's had 7 fireball shots before he started his round. Or he can go out there and bomb it and take advantage of the approach play and just play average short game and do well. So that's why I'm taking that.
It's fair. For mine, it's going to be Daniel Berger top 20 at plus 200. Again, I don't feel comfortable having him in my normal bets or either my lineups, but he did do really well last week at the Sanderson. So I am just throwing it out there in case he continues on with that progression and maybe he's back to his pre-injury form.
I would put both of my nipples that doesn't hit.
There is a reason why it is a wild card therefore, and not a bet. I'm just saying he had his best performance in years last week. If he continues it, then we're in good shape.
Oh, it's so good.
All right. Who you got for winners?
Kurt Kitayama, baby. I have faith. You might hate it. I like it. And then I have Lucas Glover as my secondary.
Ah, crap. Okay.
We have a squad winner.
Yeah, we do have a squad winner. So my first winner's pick is Justin Lauer.
Yeah. You didn't even mention anything about him, and now he's your winner's pick?
Yeah, I did. I threw him out there. I commented on it.
Oh.
It's not pretty, but again, I could totally see somebody like just low 7s just scraping out a win this week. Oh yeah, it's gonna be ugly. My other winner's pick is Lucas Glover. Yeah, that one we're on the same page as. So
he'll miss the cut.
Probably, and that's okay because that's all I have him on. So
fair enough.
It works. So all right, with that is the Black Desert Classic. After this week, we'll know more about this tournament. Hopefully, in the future years, this will be easier because we'll know exactly how to attack it with exactly the data we need, and I can go nerd out and figure it all out and make myself a little extra money. But with that, happy betting, and we will see you next week at the Shriners. Deuces.
Deuces.